Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, have you not heard the news? Wales deposit $1.3 billion worth of USDC into Coinbase. Right, that's it. Go and buy as much Bitcoin and Ethereum as physically as possible. Well, you have to understand how they're going to utilize this 1.3 billion. Do we know for sure that they're going to be buying Bitcoin and Ethereum? We can only make the assumption that that is the case. And in today's video, I'm going to explain things that we need to take into consideration, but more importantly, understand the nature of how potentially this 1.3 billion is going to be planted in what we could assume to be purchases in Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're also going to dive into a few events that are going to be unfolding today. We've already had the good news from Microsoft and Google. Things are looking good for those guys on the demand for AI. And then, of course, we're going to be checking out what we can expect from Bitcoin going into the weekend, because it's Friday, yeah. I don't have my usual setup, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I don't normally do live streams behind a curtain. I usually have a bookcase, and I've read all of those books. So if you are new to this channel, be sure to like and subscribe and go and check out the last few videos to get a little bit of flavor of what we actually do here on this channel. So let's get with the program, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a conversation. So we kick it off with this giant buy signal. Crypto whales transfer 1.3 billion to Coinbase. All right, cool. So you know those services that are provided for on X, where you see whale bot alerts, and you can see 185,000 people are actually witnessing that money is going into Coinbase. Automatically, let's just go and buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. But let me just present to you a couple of things. It would be too much of a big move to plant 1.3 billion as a purchase in the marketplace without causing a ruckus. Like, we're talking madness here to just go and buy $1.3 billion worth of Bitcoin or Ethereum. How are they likely to do it? Well, this is where we start paying attention to the bids and the asks. Remember, the bid and the ask, fundamentally, bids means that they are buying, passive buyers that is, and then the offers, which is the asks, is where people are selling. So to demonstrate, you can see here at yesterday's lows on Bitcoin, where it made the nice little stop in volume candle reversal, we saw that there was a purchase of 5.34 million in Bitcoin. That was a limit buy order. So people were going crazy, like, oh my God, Bitcoin is dropping. That's it. We're going down to 20K. Those people that were selling were only selling into the participants that had limit orders sat in the chart. This is symbolic. This is important, because you're then going to be able to understand the nature of whether if a move to the downside is really because people are panicking, but they can only sell if someone is buying. There is an array of orders all over the place. We've got orders going all the way down to 47. You've got orders going even further down to 37,800. You've got an order right here for 14 million to buy Bitcoin at 38,041. Go even further down, we've got an order here at 31,000 for 19 million. And as we go further and further, you've got a little order here of 1.42 at 20,000. And this is where people will ask the question and say, yeah, but what happens when the market is collapsing? Well, these limit orders are being picked up. They are literally being picked up. And then naturally, there's going to be an instance where the psychology of traders will naturally change when they start to see support coming in, and where we would anticipate reversals to come into play. Now, if we go and have a look at Bitcoin's price action from yesterday, you can then say to yourself, well, what happened? Well, everyone started selling the Bitcoin. You can see it started to drop down. And then as we get towards this area here, which happened to be another area of bids where they were buying before, just look at this candlestick right here. This is where historically there was someone bidding Bitcoin. So they had buy orders ready to be picked up. That naturally led the reversal to the upside, because it was an area where they wanted to start lifting the ask and offer out. Because the idea is that when a bid is placed, an order is automatically set for an offer, so they could have a TP profit or a target profit that they might want to trigger. Some do that, some don't. I'm not saying that that's what happens every single time, but the general practice is if I'm buying Bitcoin at a low price and the market brings volatility, I'm hoping that I can sell it as it's starting to move up. And that's where we start talking about the offers. You can see the offers which are in red. That right there shows you that at 65,000, an initial order of 13 million came in, but they actually transacted nearly 30 million. So not only that person sold 13 million, but there was a group of other people that had triggered orders and wanted to sell at that price point also. So this is what we're trying to focus on. How are we able to exploit this sort of behavior? Well, when we go back into this article here about 1.3 billion to Coinbase, what's going to happen, in my opinion, is they're going to use this 1.3 billion to effectively place limit buy orders. Now, where those limit buy orders are, we will never know. Now, unless we're using softwares like Bookmap or ExoCharts or Jigsaw, we might have a good idea of where those limit orders could be placed. They could be placed in smaller increments. They could be placed in increments of 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, even 10 million. You can see the average orders right here. So you've got an order here of 1 million. We've got an order down here of another 1 million. We go down here, there was an initial order of 1.28 million. Go over here, you've got 10 million as an order right there. So this 1.3 billion, in my opinion, is going to be dripped into the market so that if we do see any volatility in Bitcoin and it drops to the downside off the psychology of investors selling, then that 1.3 billion in principle is going to be picked up by participants inside of this area here. This is where they're going to pick up those sell orders. So hypothetically, if Bitcoin were to drop today, and we assume that that 1.3 billion has been placed in terms of limit orders and it's been split up, we can assume that 1.18 million will be picked up at 63,000 as a buy order. Thus, it's taking off from the initial balance of 1.3 billion. As much as we would love to see a purchase of 1.3 billion into into Bitcoin, that would send the market even further to the upside, but it will also trigger a lot of offers to sell on the back of this 1.3 billion coming into play. So they can't really reveal their intention too much. And that's what the article goes on to discuss. Now, something I want to draw your attention to. We've just had some news regarding the Bank of Japan. Now, this is really important because we can all focus on whales and all of this stuff, right? And money moving here and there. But we need to understand the denominator. What is it that they are using to buy the Bitcoin? Dollars. Now, we need to understand what's going on with the bigger picture. In front of you is the Japanese yen. This thing is getting smacked, like really smacked. And that could be because Japan might think that the US is not going to achieve a soft landing. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that they could go into a hard landing. Well, what does that mean? Well, a hard landing is when if the Fed increases interest rates so much, it could effectively cause a recession. A soft landing is when the Fed will increase interest rates, but only enough just to slow things down, but not cause a recession. So let's just go back into the Japanese yen. If they are devaluing the yen so aggressively, be mindful. The Japanese yen is a safe haven, and traditional investors will always turn to safe havens. I ain't even going to tell you what's going on with gold. Gold is kicking very, very nicely, ladies and gentlemen. You can see it's doing very well. It's not trading too far away from its all-time highs, and we know that central banks and, of course, Chinese participants are picking up gold. You don't think that the Bank of Japan are doing the same thing? They might be sitting right now on a big bag of Japanese yen, which could affect the dollar in the sense where if things ain't looking too good for the US, investors are going to want to turn to the safety of the yen. What happens? Yen shoots up. And when yen shoots up, the dollar goes down. That's usually what happens when people are a little bit concerned. They're either going to run to commodities, gold, oil, or they're going to go to safe haven currencies such as the yen. Now, the dollar is a safe haven because an investor's like, I don't want any exposure. I'm going to sell my assets. I'm just going to hold cash. That's one place you can put it. But they can now go and pick up a whole lot of yen for a cheap amount on the back of the dollar not achieving a soft landing, but a hard landing. That could be an assumption why the Japanese are allowing the yen to suffer so badly. It's hurting trade. It's hurting the people. They're losing value in their yen. But this could be part of a bigger picture. Now, going into Bitcoin, we look at Bitcoin's price action, we say to ourselves, okay, then what can we expect? Well, going into the idea of holders, we can see that we've got Bitcoin still toying and playing around with this 50 EMA and going back into this 1.3 billion of whales putting into Coinbase. We can only assume a range that they could be doing this from. We can say to ourselves, all right, we have these two price points over here. You've got the 67,332, and then you've also got this area down here at 61,822. I would say that this could be the range that they could be accumulating the Bitcoin from. But don't get it twisted. Just because we say that this could be the range, it could be even lower. They might be preparing for a discount on Bitcoin. They could be preparing for an event that might not be fitting. What if Nvidia misses its estimates? And well, look, let's just be logical right now. It is probably unlikely Nvidia will miss their estimates, only because Microsoft has done very well. I mean, Microsoft is up from $399 from yesterday's close, with the gap down to an out-of-hours market of $414. So that's happy days over there. We go into Google, and we can see the same thing. Google is up aggressively to around $173, $174. It was up around $180 in out-of-hours markets. So we can assume that there's going to be some potential profit taking happening on the back of Google and Microsoft. Hold on a second, Tina. You said that it could be a good day today. Yes, it could be a good day. We could see some volatility to the upside, and we can even see volatility to the downside because the S&P and the Nasdaq have been doing that. They've been marking prices lower, and then they've been following through and reversing prices to the upside. Why would they be selling as it's going up? Well, that logic makes sense over here. They buy as it's down, and then they sell it as it goes up. We are in short-term investing mode, ladies and gentlemen. You only have to go over to the yields. We are touching that 5% region, 5% on the 2-year bond. Yes, please, Mr. Market. I will take that. I'll give you $1 million and you can give me 5% return. Forget your 10-year bond. I'm not interested in that. I'm only picking up 4.6% inversion on the yield. That's what that is right there. So having an understanding of what's going on with the bigger money is going to help you understand how likely Bitcoin is going to follow through and continue to the upside. It's great news. We've got this 1.3 billion going into Coinbase, and we can only make the assumption that that money is then going to be going back into cryptocurrency. When and where is the $1 million question, ladies and gentlemen? And we can only look at the chart on the daily and ask ourselves, where in the chart will people start to behave aggressively? Look at this area here. You've got this zone down here, which sits at roughly around the 59,489 zone. I've said this, the 60K should be the new 20K, but they invalidate this 60K region. Then we're going to see some big bids coming into play. It would be inside this area here, in between the 56,000 and the 60,000 zone, that Bitcoin would experience some big bids coming in. Hopefully they can do all the business inside of this range. But they invalidate this whole area around the 60,000 zone, then we know that the bids are going to be much more deeper. Don't lose your minds when Bitcoin drops. Allow yourself to accept that when people are selling, weak hands are selling. They are being bought. Bitcoin is being purchased. And when you've got that in your mind, you're going to be approaching the charts in a different way. You're going to be looking at a chart like this and say, hold on a second, what's been going on? What do you see in front of you? Do you see a buyer's market or a seller's market? Those of you who have said buyer's market, congratulations. And those of you that said seller's market, well, we're not going up. It's confusing, isn't it? How can a market be in a seller's market when assets are rising? Because they sell it. They are programmed to sell as price rises. Have you ever been in a trade when it goes in your favor and then you're seeing it's going up and you go long and then it goes down? Well, the masses can visually see that. And then they think, okay, I'm going to go long because price is going up. Then it just reverses. And then you think that the market's got something against you. It ain't got nothing against you. It's just that you're behaving in exactly the same way thousands and thousands of other investors and traders are around the world. When Bitcoin was dropping to the downside, people were selling, and they were only able to sell because they were being bought from. Look, 12 million was being purchased at the 65,600. I even saw tweets saying, that's it, Bitcoin's done, 51,000, here we go. They say it with a negative tone, but they're only on the idea that the selling's coming into play. No, it's not selling. Selling happens when price rises. What you got to be careful of is, as we go into the weekend, there is going to be some, well, we'll see manipulation happen. But over the weekend, any events overseas could impact Bitcoin. So we've got to be taking this into consideration. And look, I'm going to say this. Whale dumps $1.3 billion into Coinbase. Now they're going to start placing limit orders. We know there's geopolitical tensions happening overseas. We're going into the start of a new month very soon. We've got Nvidia earnings coming up, and we've just had Microsoft and Google earnings being released. If there's going to be any time for a bid to be taken on Bitcoin, it could be the weekend. They could use the weekend to bid Bitcoin. We could hear news of geopolitical tensions overseas that could trigger big bids coming into play. That's not me alarming you. It just doesn't, you can only come across it with that way of thinking. We're in the realm of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen next. But when you put two and two together and you look at it in hindsight, you think, well, we've just had an announcement that Israel have continued with another attack. Okay, put two and two together. Bitcoin drops at the announcement. Then what happens? You find out that there was an order that was placed not so long ago before that for a big buy order in Bitcoin, or lots of money was put into an exchange to buy crypto. In hindsight, we look at it and think, maybe that could be the reason. Could they know something? Maybe. I mean, if you're planting 1.3 billion into an exchange, you must know a brother or two. You must know someone or something. You ain't no dude sat in the Bahamas with your finger in, you get what I'm saying. It's people in the know. They will always act beforehand. So just take that into consideration going into the weekend. Usually the weekend does bring the volatility. Usually that's when we start hearing problems all around the world because the markets are closed. It's the only way that they can really control behavior. It's the only way that the big players who have access to the out of hours markets are able to buy and sell. Have that in your minds when you are approaching trading, because it's not always just trading. There are macroeconomic factors, there are geopolitical factors that will influence the reason to why someone will buy and why someone will sell. So, going into the weekend, we'll be getting a new creation of the psychological ranges, and that will be on Saturday, okay? And that will be in the evening time, around 10 p.m. UK time. We do have vector candle imbalances to the left of the chart over here. If they're going to be buying inside of these ranges, we're going to anticipate that they could be getting ready to sell. So just be very mindful. That means price will go up. But if we do hear any news over the weekend that is causing a little bit of a concern for the marketplace, then the bids will start getting engaged, weak hands will sell, Bitcoin will drop. But we know when it drops, these dudes right here are going to be there to pick it up. So if you've made it this far, mad love and respect. Just make sure you hit the like button and subscribe on the way out if you are new to this flavor. We will be returning to the UK on Monday and we'll be back to the usual setup and routine of going live twice a day. But I think we're going to do videos. Let me know in the comment section if you prefer lives or videos. Ladies and gentlemen, mad love and respect. It's been a pleasure. Please trade safely and I'll be checking in with you all on Monday. Peace.